Hi BSO, I'm Oksana Bellas, a BSO member, and today, in anticipation of Purim, I wanted to share a Hamantaschen recipe. These Hamantaschen cookies are dairy and definitely probably something different and unlike Hamantaschen you tasted in the past. They're flaky, they're light, and they have meringue nuts as a filling. So one of the reasons I was never really a fan of hamantaschen is I find them really quite heavy, and the fruity filling is, just not kind of my jam, I guess. So this is something different. I adapted it from a recipe my mom used to bake. They were not associated with Purim whatsoever. In Russian, we call them shell cookies. So this is something that I used to eat growing up, and now I am trying them, that same dough for hamantaschen. So hope you come along on the journey with me as we go through the process. Let's look at the ingredients. We will need 2 sticks of unsalted butter at room temperature. We will also require a tablespoon of granulated sugar, 3 eggs. I'm using large eggs always, and I already separated them. We will need the yolks for the cookie dough itself and egg whites for the filling. We will also need a half a cup of full fat sour cream or creme fraiche. At this point, this is not the recipe to use reduced fat sour cream. Go for the good stuff because we want the fat from the sour cream. And when you use reduced fat, it will add a lot of liquid to your dough, and it's really not going to work. We will also need a teaspoon of vanilla extract or vanilla paste, whatever you have on hand. And finally, 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. Filling, we will need the egg whites that we separated earlier from our 3 large eggs. So again, 3 large egg whites, a cup of granulated sugar. We will also need about half a teaspoon of kosher salt, about a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract or vanilla paste, and a cup of toasted walnuts that I already chopped. If you're allergic to walnuts, a good replacement would be pistachios, or hazelnuts would work really well. So I toasted the walnuts for about 9 minutes at 350 and then chopped them. And now we'll start with the dough. I'm using my KitchenAid mixer. If you don't have one, a handheld mixer would work well. And if you don't have that, I'd say you can definitely make this dough by hand. It will just take a little bit of time and effort. So I have my 2 sticks of butter. I cubed. Again, butter has to be at room temperature. To the butter, I'm going to add a tablespoon of sugar. And now we're going to cream the butter and sugar until smooth, and it'll take a couple of minutes. All right, butter and sugar are nice and creamy now. I scraped them off the walls and off the paddle attachment as well. And now we're going to add the egg yolks. And let's mix again on medium speed. Perfect. Egg yolks are all incorporated. It's unavoidable to get a little bit of separation between butter and egg yolks, and don't panic if that happens. It's totally cool. Next, we're going to add our half a cup of sour cream and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And again, I'm going to beat the mixture for a couple of minutes on medium speed. Okay, it's been mixing for about a minute. Looking good. I'm going to scrape down the walls again just to keep it as neat and well incorporated as possible. And then we're going to add in our 2.5 cups of flour. I just added about half of the all-purpose flour, and I'm going to mix it gently for I don't know, 30 seconds or so. And then I'm going to add the rest of the flour that's waiting for me here. What it looks like before I go ahead and proceed with the rest of the flour. Remember, you don't want to over mix the dough. So this just literally took me maybe about 20 seconds or so. I'm ready for the rest of the flour. And again, I'm just going to mix it for a little while for it to come together. Excellent. The dough came together. This is definitely a nice light cookie dough. It's not very dense, and that is one of the main reasons why the cookies end up being light and flaky. So we can't work with this dough right away. We're going to refrigerate it, and I'll show you exactly how you will prepare it for refrigeration. Hi, it's me again. Hopefully I haven't lost you yet. I know it's this recipe is a bit of a production, and we're gonna now take it to the point where you can actually throw it in the fridge. And so the best time to make the dough, I find, is in the evening, and then put it in the refrigerator overnight. That would be perfect. You can also just refrigerate it for a couple of hours. So I'll show you how I roll it up and send it to the fridge. Okay, we're back. The dough, as you can see, it's already on saran wrap, a strip of saran, and I started to form the dough into a log. And eventually I'm gonna get it to about 2 inches in diameter, and it's gonna be quite long. I want to note that I did sprinkle a little bit of flour on the saran wrap, because there is a bit of a sticky dough, as I mentioned before, but now with flour, it's looking quite good. My log is ready, so I just gently, by rolling it back and forth and kind of by forming it with my hands, we have this nice long log. It's about 2 inches in diameter. It's wrapped into saran wrap, and I'm going to refrigerate it now for 2 hours. Okay, so we have another about 15 minutes left for the dough to refrigerate. In the meantime, we can make the meringue filling. So the most important thing probably is meringue requires a lot of patience. This is not time to improvise. It really is time to follow the recipe and be patient. And what we're going to do is start with our KitchenAid bowl, or if you have a if you have a handheld mixer, make sure your bowl is super clean. And in addition, it would be really a good idea to wipe it down with a little bit of lemon juice, or white vinegar would work really well as well, to just, to be double sure about the bowl walls not being greasy in any way, because egg whites will not beat well if your bowl has any remnants of grease from your prior baking projects and so on. So what I'm going to do right now is take my egg whites. So let's turn this down a little bit like this. I'm gonna get my egg whites in. Now, remember, egg whites had to be at room temperature, right? So they won't beat as well if they're going to be cold. So what I actually did is I left my egg whites on the counter while the dough is refrigerating. And that's totally safe to do. So we're now going to beat the egg whites on medium speed until they turn foamy. And that may take about, like a couple of minutes or so. All right, so after about 4 minutes, I'm gonna lower so you guys can see up close. On medium speed, my egg whites turned into a foamy, have a foamy texture. So I wouldn't say like shaving cream, probably a little bit less. Let me take the whisk out so we can take a good look, give you a better look on what it's supposed to look like. But again, foamy egg whites. And at this point now, we're going to start adding sugar. We're gonna do so in small installments, so about a tablespoon at a time, and maybe count to 10 in between each addition, so that the egg whites really have time to slowly absorb the sugar. We're gonna go again on medium speed. This is not the time to rush the process again, so you just wanna go as slow as possible. Okay, adding sugar. A little more, and you keep going like so until you added all of the sugar. All of the sugar is in now, and as you can tell, the egg whites are turning thicker and whiter, and we're now going to beat them probably for another 10 minutes or so. I'm gonna set the clock and keep track of how long it will take. But again, we're going to slowly build up speed. I'm gonna start on medium, and then we'll incrementally add to the speed. So like I will start, for example, on speed 4, and slowly start to increase the speed to 10. Okay, it's time to check. It's been about 15 minutes in total. I've been making meringue for many, many years now, so I'm kind of experienced at it, and I could tell often just by looking at the texture of the egg whites. And so I could tell that it really needed more time. So it's been about 15 minutes. To me, it looks like it's ready, that there's stiff peaks already, and we can proceed with the rest of the recipe. So let's take a look. Yeah, nice and thick. So this one is just a little droopy, so we could go for another minute or so. But I can tell that when I just poked it with my finger, you can tell that it's very stiff already, and it's sufficient for the recipe that we're making. So the egg whites doubled, I would say, if not more, in volume. They're glossy and stiff, and perfect for now for the last few things that we have to add. So what we're going to do now is add in salt and fold it in with a spatula. We do not want to deflate the egg whites, so that's why we're gonna do the last few things by hand. So I'm just gonna get everything off the whisk. Again, don't forget to brush the mixture off the walls, because some of the sugar settles in, and you basically want everything to get well mixed for the filling. So I'm going to add a little bit of salt, and also going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. Okay, let's move this here, maybe you can see a little bit better. And we're going to just gently fold this in. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm just folding it in, kind of swooshing around and through the middle. Again, swoosh and fold. Just do this a few times to mix in vanilla and salt. And finally, our walnuts. Again, you can use other nuts. Pistachios would make a beautiful filling. Hazelnuts also would work really, really well. So I'm just sprinkling these in. It's about a cup of toasted, chopped walnuts. And again, we're folding them in. Does not have to be perfect. There may still be just some streaks of egg whites, and that's okay, because our goal is not to deflate this beautiful stiff egg white mixture. That's it. We're done with this. We're gonna set this aside and take out our dough out of the fridge and roll it out for to actually form the Hamantaschen. So now after about 4 minutes, The mixture is thicker, but still quite runny. So we're gonna keep going and see how much longer it'll take. But we're going until meringue forms stiff peaks. So essentially, you know, it'll kind of stand in place and stop being so liquidy. So we just have to keep going. Okay, I took the dough out of the fridge. It's much harder now, the way it feels, and it will be a lot easier to work with. I'm not taking it off the saran wrap completely. What I'm going to do is cut about 8 slices from my log, about, I would say about 1/4 inch thick. This log should make you about 30 to 34 cookies if you follow the recipe. So we're going to cut about 1/4 inch pieces. And I'm gonna do about 8 right now. And then we're going to roll them out. Okay. So I'm gonna actually put this back in, wrap it up again, and I'm gonna actually put it back in the fridge because this dough may get soft and my kitchen is a little warm right now. So I recommend keeping it in your fridge in between doing kind of batches of about 8 or so Hamantaschen. So I floured my counter and also floured the rolling pin a little bit and rolled out the 2-inch circles into about 4-inch circles. And as you can tell, they're not perfect rounds, and that's totally fine because again, we're gonna be forming them into Hamantaschen, kind of triangular shape, so this will work. Key thing I forgot to tell you is that I turned the oven on to 350, and it's preheating now. And I prepared a couple of cookie sheets lined with parchment paper. We're going to need that. And next I'm going to fill these rounds with about a teaspoon or maybe a little bit more of the meringue mixture and fold them into triangles. So this is how much meringue mixture you're going to put into each round approximately. So it's about, I would say, maybe a teaspoon and a half or so. And now let's form them. Boy, I'm all covered in flour. That's okay. So make sure your hands are clean. So put the filling in first, wash your hands, dry them so that you're working with clean hands for your folding. So the way I do it, I essentially overlap on one side and again overlap on the other side, and I really pinch the corners together. And so with this meringue filling, which remember it expands, right, because that's what meringue does, it's actually quite all right if there is very little visible meringue once you fold it into a triangle. So, and I'm gonna fold it over like so, and fold it here again. And again, don't be afraid to pinch your folds. And so here's our Hamantaschen. Keep going until you're done. Okay, so this is the finished product. The Hamantaschen bake at 350 for about 17 to 18 minutes. They come out golden brown, and after they cool off, you can dust them with some powdered sugar for a bit of added sweetness and a nice finish. And enjoy them. They can be stored in a covered container, airtight, for up to about 5 days. They remain still pretty nice and crisp. So these guys are nice and light and not very sweet, which I really also enjoy about them, and crunchy from the nuts and the meringue, which is wonderful. You may have some meringue remaining after you're done filling your Hamantaschen. So what I recommend doing with that last bit of the egg white mixture is creating a few of the meringue cookies. So I usually scoop them on a cookie sheet and put them in a preheated oven at 350. But as soon as you put them into the oven, turn off the heat and do not open the oven for at least a few hours. So, or overnight, and then you may have a few crunchy cookies. So I think that's it. Happy Purim to you all, and I hope you enjoy the recipe. Let me know what you think.